Long-term wealth requires ever-increasing competency. What you know now won't get you there. You're gonna have to get new knowledge, skill, ability, and talent to go to the next level. Even if you luck into a ton of money, you're gonna have to get more competent on what to do with the money. Dealing with finances is a skill that you can learn. Show me where you make money. What do you do to make money? And I go, oh, well, I have this job or I have this type of business. I said, okay, what's the skill there that you have that you think is driving your pay? What's the primary, if you had to narrow it down to 1, 2, or 3 skills that's driving your primary pay, and if you enjoy that skill, go deeper. I went to a bunch of seminars on how to enhance my public speaking. I invested in hiring coaches. I invested in taking classes and tutorials on how to operate all this gear by myself. These are skills that you can develop. And as you learn to develop more skills, it's easier to exceed expectations and add new value. I think skill development is way underrated. What we have now is we have a browsing-based culture versus a mastery-driven culture.
Need motivation? Watch the top 10 of Believe Nation because I love it.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because in my first business, I struggled to stay afloat. I quit my business partner, and the thing that kept me going was studying the stories of famous entrepreneurs and seeing how they struggled and seeing what they had to overcome and listening to their wisdom, motivation, gave me the courage, the strength, the belief to go one more day and see my business through. And in all honesty, I still need the inspiration, wisdom, motivation today for my business too. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Brendon Burchard, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy.
When you switch from, I'm a browser, right? I'm going to use this phone all day like this, and I'm going to input a million random things that mean nothing to me whatsoever, to, I'm going to use this thing to deeply study something that will develop my skill, my capabilities, so I can build better, serve better, lead better, change, add value. When this becomes a tool of study versus just selfies or distraction, now you're on the right path to wealth. Now you're on the right path to wealth. This is so important. I would say one of the fundamental problems in our culture right now, worldwide, is that most people invest their time in consumerism, shopping, or in entertainment, just absorbing, taking it in, and very few in active development of skill. And skill can be communication, conflict management, negotiation, leadership, influence, like soft skills, or hard skills, like coding, like building something, like designing, like creating something, like actually executing a process or behavior, like athleticism, like something where you're just developing that over and over. The mastery mindset is a path to wealth. The mastery mindset is a path to wealth. When we invest in our skill development over a period of time, we're more capable of adding new value, exceeding expectations, going to the next level. And as we go to the next level in those areas, we tend to get paid more. That's important. What's the primary drivers of how you get paid today? What are the major skills? How can you develop them? Get way better at them. Way better at them. I had to learn that in every area, from online marketing to email marketing, to influencing, to teaching, to running the gear, to running the company, to how to deal with employees, to how to build up the finances of a company. Like, I don't know how to do any of that coming out of a broke mining town. But what I said is, I want to be able to serve at the highest levels. So what skills do I need to learn? When I was an author and I was broke, I said, what skills do I need to learn? Okay, well, one skill for me is writing a book. So I'm going to study how to write well. So I studied and studied and studied how to write well. Great. That's one skill though, isn't it? And I'd look at these other authors. I said, well, how are they so rich? How are they wealthy? Well, it turned out a lot of them were on the road speaking. And as they spoke more, people bought more books. And I was like, well, that's a virtuous loop. Okay, so if I can learn to become a teacher and a speaker, then people buy more books. And well, I want to be a writer who sustains my life as a writer. That was my goal. Okay, I guess I could add that skill, which would support the finances over here. It was an adjacent skill that served the main goal for me. okay, well, I hate speaking. I don't like it. But I was like, well, why don't I like it? Well, because I don't know how to do it. I'm uncomfortable doing it. Well, I was uncomfortable riding a bike. I didn't know how to do that. Well, let me try. Let me put some training wheels on. Let me learn to speak. So I started speaking and teaching myself time, energy, investment of my heart and my soul to speak. And I was literally speaking to myself in a room, walking around, wearing out my carpet, just teaching myself to talk out loud about topics for long periods of time. It's like, okay, figure out how to do that. Then I was like, okay, I need to get in some practice. I need to get in front of some audiences. So I'd start doing it in classes. I'd volunteer to give my report out. Or when it was time to give a report out, I'd put some flourish on it, man. And I just thought, okay, I'm going to keep getting better. I'm going to keep trying to get in front of more and more audiences and bigger. I'll speak free. I don't care. I just need to run the reps to gain the skill so I can become good at it. Because I saw speaking as an adjacent way to serve people beyond just my writing. So that was an entire skill that I built up from scratch with no natural talent or ability. In fact, more fear. And so it was like, okay, but that's going to serve over here. Let me see if I can do it. And let me see if I enjoy it. And of course, once I got over the fears and I saw the impact beyond me with people, I was like, wow, that really made a difference in a person's life who might not read my book. Wow, this is just another vehicle for me to make my difference. I thought it had to be about book writing. I was like, oh, but I can make a difference this way too. Huh. And I can enjoy this too. Huh. And if I hadn't done that, we wouldn't even be here right now. If I hadn't learned to run a camera by myself, because I'm in a room by myself. I don't know if you can tell, like this is a real room. I'm here by myself running all this gear. Like it's just me. And so I had to figure out like, well, how do I do that? How do I do the lighting? Right before we began, literally with the team, we were adjusting the camera and they're watching on Zoom. I'm like, how about here? What do you think about that? Like trying to figure out all these little things without knocking everything down. And if I hadn't learned that, we wouldn't be here. So I would also say I wouldn't have reached the scale in my own career. As you scale up your competencies, you scale up the likelihood you will build wealth.
Rule number 2 is own your vision decision.
Vision decision. You have to own the vision decision. You have to be open to it. You have to be adaptable with it, but you've got to be the most committed person on the team, in the organization, in the culture, in the family. You've got to be the person who holds that thing together, who's entrusted with that. I always say leaders are really entrusted with service. They're entrusted with the vision. And as they're entrusted with that vision, they're also relied upon to make the hard decisions. What's some of the hardest decisions you ever made in your life? Like the hardest decisions you ever made in your life. Could be in any area, your relationships, your finances, your career. What's some of the hardest decisions you've ever made? If you think about those hard decisions that you made, those hard decisions ultimately were made because you had a different vision at that moment. You didn't like where things were. You wanted to go in a different direction, and you bought into a vision of how things needed to be different. Whether that was from like depletion, you were just exhausted, tired, didn't like it. Whether it was from a place of just like, oh, I recognize all the problems here, or I know there's a better solution, or it was highly aspirational for your future. You bought into a different vision, and you made a decision from that vision. Well, I share that with you because part of the principle here, a vision decision, is to be aware, oh, your whole team is making hard decisions based on the vision. You're going to have to make hard decisions based on the vision. So here's a tough question. What the heck is the vision? What is it that you are after? What is it that you collectively want to move towards, want to achieve? And it doesn't have to be some pie in the sky forever, 100-year out vision. It might be a 3-month out vision. It might be a 6-month out vision. But if you're not crystal clear about that decision that vision with yourself, what will happen is as people support what they create, as you open those ears, as you have those other conversations, you'll be unmoored to the beliefs, the values, and the direction that you want to go. You'll lose yourself in the noise. And this is the number one thing I see great leaders do to fail. They lost themselves in the noise. So much noise from the stakeholders, so much noise from the shareholders, so much noise in social media, the bad article written about them, the people trying to cancel culture them. They lose their foundation of their vision of themselves and their future, and they start becoming a ghost, fully adaptable and flexible into everything else everybody else wants. And now what they really are is a vessel carrying everybody else and everything else without that command level internally of, oh, I am in charge of this. If you read the Motivation Manifesto, you get the ethos of this, right? Every morning, you got to get up, you got to pick up that spear of purpose, you got to cast it as far as you can see it today. Throw that spear of purpose as far as you can today, as far as you can. And then your day is to go march towards that spear with so much commitment, so much discipline, so much resilience that then you get that spear, you get to throw it out as far as you can again. That is having the vision, and that is having the discipline to go get it. The interesting thing is you have to take that outside of your head. You probably have a clearer vision for what's important to you than your wife does, than your partner does, than your friends do, than your family does. And so a huge part of the vision principle is you've got to communicate it more. You got to help everybody see what that vision ends up being, where they participated or they didn't, depending on your timing. And now it's like, oh, this is the thing we're rallying around. This is the spear. I'm going to throw it. We're going to go together. Okay, great. Let's go. And that command of the vision is what I mean by the vision decision. It doesn't mean other people didn't participate in it, but you own it. You own it. The big part about it is your life's decisions, whether you are conscious or unconscious throughout your life, your life's decisions were leading to a vision. And today's a good opportunity to say, is this the vision? Is this what I wanted? Or did I not know what I wanted? Did I just go along the ride with everybody else and do what everyone else told me my whole life? Or did I architect this? Was I thoughtful about what the decision was, what I was after? Today's a good day to look at the vision you have for your life and ask, does it match what your reality is today?
Rule number 3 is never quit.
The very first question that I might ask when someone tells me they want to quit something is I'm going to ask this question. Is this decision you're about to make strategy or discouragement? Meaning, are you thinking about quitting the thing because strategically you've thought through it and it's the right next bold move for you, your family, your career, your future? Or do you just feel discouraged? Right? Is it a logical thing, like you've sequentially thought this decision out, or do you just feel bad right now? Are you just discouraged because you've tried for a while and it's not turning out? Are you discouraged because you got some negative feedback? Are you discouraged because you got some rejected? Are you discouraged because you're disempowered in that relationship or that job or that career? And a place of discouragement is not the same as empowerment. And we have to be aware of that. But what I want to know at the very beginning of the conversation is just, where are we? Have you been thinking through this? This is the strategic right move for you and your family, your life, your career? Or are we just kind of in a fed up place, a hurt place, a discouraged place? Because some people, they don't need to quit the thing. They need to learn to manage their emotions. That's a very different thing. Because many people, they're in the right thing, but they're lacking that emotional connection or emotional intelligence to deal with the realities of it. I'll give you an example. I don't know if who's ever had a hard job before. Like it was hard and you were failing and you sucked, or maybe you started your own business and the first year, I mean, it was terrible. You felt like a failure the whole time. People are like, why are you doing that? Spending your time there. The neighbor's making fun of you, talking behind your back, and you're like trying to get it going and you're putting so much into it and it's not happening. It's discouraging. And you go, well, I'll quit this opportunity. I'm just going to quit this effort. I'm going to quit my dream. Well, the reality is maybe the dream was strategically the right decision. The opportunity was strategically a good bet. But what happened was you got emotionally hooked, and your feelings of how you're dealing with that difficulty made you make a decision to throw out the thing, when really, if it was the right thing, you needed to learn to manage your emotions better. In every relationship, there's going to be a time when it feels bad. In every new startup, every new entrepreneurial idea, every company, there'll be times when it just feels bad. That's life. The strategic mind has to say, okay, even though this feels bad, if I'm in the right place, can I learn to honor the struggle? Can I learn to turn that discouragement into curiosity or even interest? Can I learn to take that disempowering feeling and find a way to bring joy into this thing that right now kind of sucks? You know, I remember, and this applies at the most simplistic levels in our lives. It really does. How discouragement allows us to quit things. I'll give an example. Have any of you ever applied for a mortgage? Anyone ever gone through? How about any entrepreneurs? If you've been an entrepreneur and applied, if you're an entrepreneur and you've applied for a mortgage, that is a particular kind of hell. You know, they don't believe in you. They don't trust your income. You might earn more than your neighbor. They don't believe you. It's an awful process. I've been through it multiple times in my life. And every time I'm like, after the fifth call or the millionth request of a document that's stupid, I get discouraged. I get angry. I get fed up with it. I go, I'm out. Well, it's right for me to keep trying to get that mortgage for us to get the house. That's a strategic right decision. We chose the city, we chose the house, but I get discouraged in the process and I'm like, screw this. And I want to quit. And Denise, my wife, she's always like, it's just paperwork. We'll get through it. Let me help you with it. Or let's do this. And she'll save the day. Because for me, paperwork is a lot of pain. So you see how that's so small as an example? Such a small, simple thing. You quit things that are just paperwork things to get you towards your dreams. Think about that. Think about how many times you've just thought, I don't want to fill out this loan application. I don't want to have to reach out to them. What you do is you get discouraged, frustrated, or fed up with the process. And that emotional thing has you quit the thing that is required to get the strategic good outcome. And as soon as you realize that, like, whoa, I'm just giving up. I'm giving up on the right thing because I feel the wrong way. You really got to get your head around this one. Like, this is a major decision, right, in your life. You want to be thoughtful and strategic and intentional about it, not impulsive or acting from discouragement. Now, I know therapists on the line who's, Brendon, oh my God, you're such a terrible coach. Don't you realize that people, should listen to that discouragement? I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely. I just don't want you to live there or make all your decisions from that place. You can listen to discouragement. You can feel fed up. Notice I'm not taking away the emotion. The whole goal is here, where are we coming from? When people first propose quitting a marriage, a relationship, a job, an opportunity, their first proposal of, this is stupid, I'm going to quit, is impulsive, not strategic. And I, again, as a coach, when they first throw it at me, I want to know where they're at.
Rule number 4 is expand expectations.
If you want more wealth, you have to learn to exceed expectations and add new value. Notice it doesn't say add value, add new value. Okay, so first part, at your job or in your career, you need to exceed expectations. And we live in a culture right now, which really, I know is for many of you who are older, it's really hard to understand that many people say, I'm just going to do what I'm paid for. Only going to do what I'm paid for, won't do anything more. And that's a very big cultural thing, especially in the United States right now. It's like, I only do what I'm paid for. Who are you? What right do you have, boss or society, to ask me to do more than you're paying me for? And I'm like, ooh, that's poor thinking. That's bad thinking. That's going to get you in trouble, because you know what that's going to mean? It just means you're always going to get paid for what you do, and only for what you do. So if you're happy with your pay, do that forever. You don't deserve any more unless you go beyond the expectations or the dollar value of what you're doing. That's so hard for people to get. And people, I don't like that. I'm like, I don't know. That's adding value, doing your best, stretching yourself. Now, the criticism, which I think is appropriate, comes down to being when that turns into burnout culture in companies, where the company's paying you a certain amount, or they're paying you less than another person would get paid because they lack diversity, or they're paying genders different things than you're getting paid. That's a whole different conversation politically than what we're having here. We're talking about you and what you control. And you're either going to be a person who builds wealth because you believe, I'm going to exceed expectations here so I can be rewarded with promotions. Or I'm just going to stay here. I'm going to do the same thing like a robot all the time, and I'm only going to do what they're paying me for. And I say this both having been an employee and an employer of hundreds of people. I really believe this gets a lot of people in trouble because they want career growth, they want promotion, but they're not willing to do anything beyond their level of pay. And I grew up in a culture where I saw my dad and my mom go way beyond what their job description was, way beyond what they were getting paid. Why? Because when they were at work, they were going to be their best, whether they got paid or not. That's what they taught me. Hey, you be your best. You do your best. You do great work. Doesn't matter what you're getting paid. You're there. And if you agreed to be there, you signed the contract. You raised your hand. You took the job. You agreed to be there. Do not diminish yourself because of the pay. Can I get an amen on a weekday here? Do not diminish yourself because of pay. I will say it a million times. Do not diminish yourself because of pay, because you will lock yourself into a low level of not only income, you will lock yourself into a low level of living because you're diminishing yourself because you're not getting the exact external reward you desire. That's going to ruin you in life, because think about how that plays out in real life in other areas. Think about your relationships. Think about a marriage as an example. If you're only going to do what you are paid in return by the other person, think about how poisonous that is. I'm only going to love them equal to exactly how they love me. That relationship is going to die. Well, the same thing in careers. Careers die all the time because people go, no, I'm only going to do what I'm paid for. Some of you guys know I had a blessing of working with Paula Abdul when she was on American Idol. And she had this saying that I just loved when she was working with the kids. She would often tell them, hey, there's no traffic beyond the extra mile. Go the extra mile. There's no traffic there. Less competition. And go faster. Go the extra mile. You got freedom out there. You're not clogged up with everybody else. And I love that. It was about exceeding expectations. And if you want your company, I know many of you are entrepreneurs or business owners or managers, if you are in a place where you want your company to perform better in the marketplace, especially in a capitalistic marketplace, well, you have to exceed expectation. You can't just give them like the thing that they're buying, because then you're just a commodity. What they want is something extra. They want to be surprised by what you delivered. That's exceeding expectations. When they're surprised by what you deliver, you have raving fans, repeat customers, higher average order values, greater lifetime value. They stay longer, so less churn. In every business metric possible, when your customer satisfaction, they say that you've exceeded their expectations, your company succeeds. In fact, there's literally entire books and areas of study about this that have found year over year, culture after culture, all around the globe in every different industry. If a company only meets expectations, they fail. You have to exceed expectations. It is a mindset of the most extraordinary people I've ever met. They're like, how do we make this better? Right? The biggest business titans you ever study, whether you like them or not, they looked at the thing and said, this thing sucks. I'm going to make it better. Right? Steve Jobs with the iPhone going, phones suck. I'm going to exceed all the customers' expectations with what this phone can do. Now, whether you like the guy or not, it's like, wait, that led to one of the biggest companies in the history of the world. And you can go right down the list of all the big companies in the world and go, you know what? They innovated. They didn't just do the thing. They exceeded expectations and they added something new. So if you have a job, how can you add something new onto your plate, take on a new responsibility that shows the people around you that you're adding value, that takes care of the customer, that helps the company grow? Your job isn't to do just the minimal at work. If you just do the minimal at work, you will get paid the minimal. Like the good news, logic works there, doesn't it? So your job is to go, okay, here's the work, here's the job. How can I add new value in all of our research, in all of our coaching, and all of our training across literally millions of people from 190 different countries? Like those who don't add new value, not only do they not succeed over the long term in every measurable way, they're less happy because their life grew stale. And how many of you would equate staleness with living and experiencing a richness of life? Got it? Add new value.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5 is find confidence.
Reveal uncertainty. This one is the opposite dynamic of how I used to think of confidence, right? We think of confident people as people who are just like, it's like Wonder Woman, right, is confident. We think of Superman is confident, who just knows everything. Really what it turns out to be, high performers are listen to this, high performers are a lot less Superman and a lot more Clark Kent. That's what it turned to be. In all the research with millions of data points, in all of my conversations, high performers were much more likely to reveal things like, I don't know. Things like, I'm unsure. Things like, how do you think this should go? Things like, could you kind of help me with this? Like high performers literally explicitly share that they don't know how it's going, they don't know how it's supposed to go, that they need some help, that they need some mentorship, that they need some guidance. That's confidence. Confidence is not holding back the deck of cards of your weaknesses. Confidence is a comfort with vulnerability. And when people say vulnerability, they often don't know what they mean. When we're talking about vulnerability, specifically related to confidence and high performance, like measurable outcomes, the thing that we can measure and see is that high performers in group meetings, in team meetings, in social situations, more often share their insecurity. They more often say, I don't know how this is supposed to go. Or, they'll be the person, at that fruit punch bowl who says, I don't really know anybody here. I don't really know how to start to meet some of these people. Could you introduce me to somebody? And that's how they handle the social networking, where they're awkward. that instead of just sitting back at the punch bowl, drowning their sorrows and feeling bad about themselves, they engage the person next to them and say, hey, you know what? I feel kind of awkward here. I don't know a lot of people. Could you introduce me? That's how high performers are handling these little situations in life. They're not the most confident person in the meeting who goes, I know everything here. They're the most confident going, you know what? I don't know this. Here's my question. What do you guys think? And that is how you lead confidently. You reveal that you don't know everything. Saying I don't know is power, not weakness. But you've been trying to do too many things on your own. And that's one reason you don't have the confidence you deserve at this stage of your life. Because see, I didn't want to start with my definition of confidence for you, because I want you to be thinking about it, but I'd like to share it now that we've talked about defining and measuring it. The way I look at confidence is I think the confidence that matters the most is the confidence in one's belief in our ability to figure things out. That's what I believe confidence to be. Do I believe in my ability to figure things out? Not, do I know things? Because it's not always true. There's a lot of things I don't know. But do I believe in my ability to figure things out? Now there, I'm confident. Not because I'm smart, because I'm good at asking. I'm good at saying, you know what? I don't know how to do this. What do you guys think? And I hope this is settling in for you, because sometimes your confidence is so low because you think your confidence is correlated with what you know versus what you're willing and able to go figure out by revealing that you don't know.
Rule number 6 is invest in a peer network.
You got to invest in your peer network. This means invest time, energy, effort around getting around other people who are successful, happy, joyous, good, positive, generous, giving, skillful. This is really, really undervalued today because we become such a lonely and separated culture. This not only brings you back to life, when you are around other people who have high energy, want to give, want to serve, want to contribute, want to develop mastery, want to develop the people around them, life feels insane, so good, so positive. When you are around a bunch of people pulling you down, that's going to affect your mindset. That's going to affect how hard you try on things. That's going to affect your wealth. You got to invest in a peer network, time, energy, money, effort. When I was beginning, that meant I joined a bunch of free groups. I joined Kiwanis. I joined Rotary. I joined everything. You know, any free group, I'm there, man. And then some of these groups, they charge money. Okay, I got to pay money to be in part of these groups. Save some money, join the group. And that helped elevate my career. Other ones were just networking, just free. I'd go to conferences. I'd meet 10 people. I'd keep in obsessive contact with them every month. Okay, hey, we left the conference last month. How are you doing? What's working? What's not working? What do you need help with? And I'd keep in touch with everybody who was on this educational spiral up. Later on, when I had more disposable income that I could use, I would invest in masterminds, small group coaching sessions. I'd go to conferences or retreats to get around people who were doing what I was doing or did something bigger than I would do. So I would start networking with people who are at other levels of finances, other levels of joy, other levels of sport, other levels of anything, so that I could keep up leveling my mastery. And some of you have never done the work on a consistent basis year over year to keep up leveling your network. And I want you to hear this, year over year. Not when you make it, not when you become a millionaire, not when, you know, all the bills are paid. No. Every year of your life, up level your network. More positive, purposeful, generous, thoughtful people. Every year of your life. Every year. Sometimes in one part of our life, we moved into a new home that was just in a better community. And that better community was something that we felt like, okay, the folks who live here, they're experiencing life differently. Okay. Now, of course, did I meet happy people and unhappy people? Absolutely. but we knew that was a higher quality of community than where we had been or where we'd come from. So we just kept up leveling. But also for me, every year, I go to new conferences, meet new people. Who's adding new value? Who's doing a new thing? Who's being generous? Who can I get around that energizes me? A lot of my motivation is also driven by seeing other people do amazing things. I'm like, wow, I didn't even know to aspire for that. I didn't even know we could do that. We've gone on a couple trips with other families where the way that they holiday, I was like, I never even thought about that. Never even entered my mind. Okay, I guess people do that. Okay, amazing. That's stuff like taking a helicopter somewhere. I'm like, taking a helicopter somewhere? I would have never thought. I wasn't sitting around in my, with my little vision board over here going, someday I'm going to take a helicopter. I was like, no, it's like, wow, you took a helicopter? That's amazing. I never even thought about that. So sometimes getting around other people too, their contributions, their giving, how they've gotten involved in the nonprofit world, how they generously give their money, how they serve their employees, like being around generous, positive, purposeful, giving people will change your life. It is an investment strategy. You've all heard it, and you knew I was going to say it. Your network is your net worth. Your net worth is your network. As you get around people who are strivers, climbing up, giving, serving, ambitious, thoughtful, generous, it levels you up. It levels you up, not only in your finances, in your feeling of life, in your sense of motivation or drive, in your example of productivity, in your examples of courage, in your examples of mastery, in your examples of servant leadership. Every year, it's your job to up-level your network. And I'm telling you, when you do, the finances take care of themselves over a period of time. And if you think I'm being facetious, I'm not. One of the biggest breakthroughs in my life was I invested to go to a conference. And at that conference, I heard that a bunch of people who were really successful there, they were going to the bar. Now, at this stage of my life, I didn't drink. And I heard that they're going to the bar. I was like, okay. So I was like, I'm going to invest in myself tonight. I'm going to go network. I went there. I started chatting with these people and eventually, just became friends with these people. And when I went to do one of my first big promotions, one of them supported me and promoted me. And it really helped change the game for me. And that was doing something that I normally wouldn't do. It was like, I could barely afford that conference. I would not usually go to a bar. But here I was networking and meeting these people. I should say that I would not usually go to a bar at like a conference. Like with my friends, I'd go to a bar in college and stuff, but this was very different. Like in a professional setting or at a conference, I wouldn't usually go to the bar. Go to the bar and literally one connection there, one person, one new abundant-minded mentor, one new mastermind, one new group that can open up these huge doors for you. It's just a game changer. So I want you to think about that. Have you appropriately invested in your peer network? Both the free stuff, you doing the networking, and then as you get up, small group coaching or masterminds or conferences or educational experiences or adventures where you're going to meet people who are outstandingly successful, giving, generous, and happy. Go do that. Find that peer group. I would love for you to do that.
Rule number 7 is shift your mindset.
When we enter conflicts, it's so often we get so myopic. We take things personally and we just want to win. So we want to just crush and trounce the other person and debate them and make them look dumb because our ego wants to be right. And we forget we got to wake up with that person tomorrow morning. Maybe that's your spouse. We got to go to work with that person again tomorrow because it's Tuesday. We got to, see that person again in our neighborhood. That person who we're about to have a conflict with, they're probably going to be there again. And once we can realize, I'm entering a conflict. This is about to get, heated up. We're about to have some debate here, or you're already in it. If you can adopt the shared future mindset that, we're going to share a future together. I'm going to have to see her again. I'm gonna have to work with this person again. I'm gonna have to deal with this probably again and again through multiple more projects in the future. Everything will shift. You'll approach the conversation differently, more strategically, more thoughtfully when you keep the future in mind. Usually what happens in the moment of conflict, we just throw out the baby with the bathwater or whatever that phrase is. I don't even know. I still don't know. Why would you say that? But you understand what I'm saying? What happens is you just toss out the whole relationship because you're mad. And the ego goes into self-identity, disconnects from the other person and from the future, and just gets in fight and flight mode. From that place, we've already lost. So deciding and determining we're going to have a shared future mindset is important. And importantly, if we're talking about relationship or partner or spousal, conflict, somebody who you really love, if the two of you have in mind, a compelling future together, right? You have shared interests, shared goals, shared adventures coming up. If you can always ground your relationships in the reality that you're building something together, if that pre-exists, then moving into a conflict, you're more likely to resolve it more quickly and amicably, right? Research shows even just having a couple have a conversation about something they're interested in doing or something good coming up in their future before having them talk out a difficulty makes that difficulty or that conversation of conflict so much more smooth, so much more short, so much less accusatory. It changes everything. Grounding ourselves in the future, I think is important. Starting off the bat with relationships, thinking, I'll work with this person again. I'll see this person. I'll care about this person again. It can change everything and can really shift everything.
Rule number 8 is control your emotions.
How are we going to set our emotional tone in this chaos? How are we going to find our strength, our center, and project goodness and compassion at a time when it is desperately needed? How are we going to hold the line in our businesses so that we don't overreact and going one direction when we ought to be in another? How do we manage all of this today is my joy to talk with you about. Number 1 is the decision that I will always be the one to remain centered amid the chaos. And I have worked on myself and I have taught myself that for pretty much 25 years. I've worked on that at a very steady pace. When everyone's freaking out, I take a bunch of deep breaths. I connect with my breath. I make sure that I'm keeping perspective. But ultimately that decision to I will be centered amid this means for me that I will choose the emotional tone and my attitude as I am dealing with uncertainty or chaos. I remember years ago, I was doing an event and a person in the back of the room had a seizure. And literally they fell out of their chair and on the ground, they started having a full physical reaction to the seizure as well, where they were shaking and it was terrifying for the people around them. And I was kind of at the beginning of my career. And I saw it happen. It was almost in slow motion. And could you imagine you're on your stage? I mean, put yourself there. You're in front of, hundreds or thousands of people. And all of a sudden somebody is, falling over and having a full seizure in front of the whole audience. The whole audience literally starts looking back. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. People are standing up. Oh my God, oh my God. Total panic sets in the room. And I remember standing up there and I have this on video where at first, my first reaction is like this, kind of like shock, just like everybody else, like, whoa. And then I kind of look over and instantaneously in my mind, I go, Brendon, you have to be in charge here. I didn't want to be in charge. I had to be in charge. And my mind immediately said 2 choices here. Join the panic or stay stable and strong and present and connected with what's really happening.
And so that decision, I'm going to stay centered amid this, made me immediately also decide I need to center the audience. So I asked the entire audience, I just announced, I said, everyone sit down. And everyone just kind of looked, I said, sit down. And everybody, they sit down. And I said, please sit down, because your panic and your chaos right now is not serving the energy of this person who needs healing. Sit down, be quiet. Everyone, please close your eyes so my team can address this situation. Please close your eyes and let's put some positive energy and prayer in the room for this person who needs our attention right now. They don't need negativity and fear in the room. Let's put some love and prayer. Let's send some energy. So please close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and remember, you can choose to contribute good energy to the situation. And so I had everyone close their eyes, take a few deep breaths, and meditate or send prayer back to this person as my team was clearing that row and getting to this person so that when the paramedics would arrive, that person could be removed. Now, here's the deal. I knew I had like 20 minutes at least before we could get a paramedic probably at that spot in the seminar. And I thought, how am I going to buy 20 minutes? People are going to start freaking out. And I realized, no, if I set the emotional tenor in this room on purpose, and if I ask of others to find the best within themselves, if I ask of others to take a breath, if I ask of others to be responsible for the energy they are projecting into this space, if I ask of that, and if I demonstrate that, we'll make it through this moment. And that might not seem like a big deal, but I really believe the energy in that room either was serving this man as he was having a seizure or was making it worse. You know, imagine here he is having this unbelievable, stressful, life-threatening situation, and if all around him everybody is screaming in chaos, the body feels that, you know? The body and the mind feels the energy of what is around it. And so if that is true, let us all be responsible for the energy we are projecting right now. I've seen friends hop online and something's happening, and what are they doing? They're contributing to the chaos. They're posting snarky comments. There's sarcasm, blame, vitriol, anger. And I'm not here to say that we can't use our social mediums to contribute to an argument or to make a case, but every word has a tone to it. And the tone that we are setting in reply to chaos either furthers the chaos or it levels it. And the more of us who choose to be even, tempered, thoughtful, caring, compassionate, the values that we would all hope to have as a global citizenry, the more that we will judiciously take action in a thoughtful way. That's the hope. And whether you believe that or not, I hope that you'll hear this first practice. Your family needs to see you centered, calm, strong, and assured in chaos. Otherwise, we are passing down panic to another generation.
Rule number 9 is build a strategic life plan.
This is all about ego. What happens is we start losing at something. We feel bad about it. We don't want other people to see it or know it. So we just double down. I'm going to prove I'm right. But in the area of wealth, just like in the area of science, testing is important. Knowing what is working is important. Getting rid of the experiments that are not working is part of the scientific process. Who understands what I'm saying? Well, the same thing with wealth. I think wealth generation is a very scientific process. You don't always get it right, but at least one core piece about it is having a hypothesis, making sure you're trying different experiments, seeing what's working. But what's important in wealth is not to lose it. What's important in wealth is when you've worked so hard to generate it, not to blow it on stupid stuff. Or if you have a losing strategy, not to keep pouring into it. I have friends and family and people who they'll try something for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. It's not working, but they're embarrassed to be seen quitting it to start something new because it would prove that they're wrong. And people don't like to be proved that they're wrong, especially insecure people, especially people who have their ego wrapped up into something, especially people who don't want to learn, especially people who are easily embarrassed when things don't turn out right because they've been taught or they believe that by being wrong, they're bad and they cannot see themselves as bad. So they get defensive. When they get defensive, they get stubborn. When they get stubborn, they double down. Anyone know someone like this? Be honest. Yeah. This is a big one. This ruins families. This ruins finances. This ruins your future. And you have to know when you're just being stubborn, when your actions are causing losses over and over and you keep repeating them. This is often where gambling or addiction comes into play. And when this comes into play, sometimes you need to know that you have to raise your hand and ask for professional help. Sometimes you need to tell a family or friend that they might need professional help. Some of you have had to do interventions with family, take away credit cards, tell them, give them, take away access to bank accounts. I know when I talk to a global community, that stuff has happened here. And I'm here to say, without any judgment, I understand how hard that is. Like I said, I had people very close to my life who followed this strategy, and sometimes they could control it and sometimes they could not. So I don't make light of this. When you take on topics like this is tough stuff. However, I need you to know today, have you been doubling down on a losing strategy? Something that is just not working. And you keep pouring money into it. Now, there is investment in skill development, as we'll talk about later. There is investment in your life. And if you feel like, hey, you're gaining mastery, you're getting better, and that increases the odds dramatically of that thing turning around and you making it go, okay, I understand it. I did that myself, right? I'll give you an example of me. I was somebody who invested a lot of time, energy, and effort in learning the new skills that would become my future career. And in my first year or two, it didn't look good. And I had to have this honest sit down with myself, with a journal, with that green tea, and go, is this going to work? Is it going to work because I'm going to develop the skill? I'm going to apply myself. I'm going to stay consistent. I'm going to get around good people. I'm going to keep trying. Is this going to work because I've seen it work for other people? Is this going to work because there's evidence that there's progress here? Is this going to work because there's evidence of gaining skill here? Or is this a total dead end? And I need to be honest with myself. Now, here's the issue. Notice I didn't make that about self-esteem. Because when I was starting, my self-esteem would have said, should I double down on this? Well, I'm not very good at this. I'm not smart. I'm not capable. I've never done this before. My self-esteem would have said, stop. But instead, I'd look for evidence. Have other people do this? Is there progress? Am I gaining skill and mastery? Is there a clear path? Are there people around me who are doing this? And it's obvious they've figured out a strategy that is very clear. There's no hocus pocus. There's no lack of transparency. Like, these are what the things they're doing. Do I have a clear plan? That wasn't about me. It was about, is there some evidence? Is there a plan? Can I execute? Okay, I kept going. And I'm glad in that moment that I did double down. Now, however, I didn't double down irresponsibly. Even though it wasn't going well, even though I felt like so many days were failure, there was evidence of a path. There was evidence of a peer group doing this. There was evidence of progress there. There was evidence eventually of, okay, this is working. Hey, look, people are opting in. People are buying the book. People are, signing me up. Okay, I can see this thing scaling. Got it. All right, let me keep investing there. But also along the way, I can tell you, as someone running a business, there's been so many losing marketing campaigns, losing ideas, losing businesses along the way that I just had to go, not working, kill it. It's just not right. Look at the evidence. It's not progressing. It's not getting the numbers. It's not scaling. It's just not working. Let's change our strategy. Let's leave it. Because what I tell people always, you can always find lots of other strategies that also get you to where you want to go and can bring you joy and connection and fulfillment. There's anything you want to do in your life, there's 100 strategies. Anything. There's nothing think about parenting, hundreds of strategies, right? To find your way authentically and to connect with your child. There's hundreds of ways to develop skill. There's hundreds of businesses. Literally, there's an infinite number of strategies in some ways to do something. Your job is to find those ones that speak to you, to try them, to have a plan, to see something else someone else has tried to done, model them, find your own way within it. But listen, if it's not working, you have to choose when to quit it. You have to choose. And the most important thing when it comes to wealth is to not double down on things that are not working because something else could, right? Same thing in investing, right? This can be as tactical as, hey, you invested in this stock. You're watching the stock and you keep pouring into it every month for 6-7 months and you're watching it. You're pouring into it 6-7 months. It's not doing anything. Well, remember there's other strategies. Well, you look at, all these other stocks, they happen to be growing. They're doing fine. Maybe I need to evaluate if this one is where I should keep pouring into, or should I diversify? Right? That's the basis of a lot of what people talk about in wealth management is understanding, oh, wait, I put all my eggs in this basket. It's not turned out well. Let me make sure I'm more diversified so I don't lose. You all following what we're talking about here? Please don't double down on where you're losing. Know when you're being stubborn. Know when ego is there. Know when you're embarrassed to quit. And say, you know what? Instead of being embarrassed to quit something, let me be okay with the fact that quitting or stopping this thing that is hurting me or my family or my finances, stopping that might actually be the thing that brings me the next level of abundance.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is be respectful.
How many of you have ever been in a conversation and in a conflict and you were just trying to be thoughtful and try to be calm and the person you were dealing with was not respectful? All right. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of hands raised here in the Zoom, at least as we're doing this. It's very, very frustrating. And soon as we lose respect in the conversation process, all is fair game in war. And so it's a very challenging thing. We have to go into conflict situations, but adopt this philosophy overall. I'm going to treat people with kindness and respect, even if they don't treat you that way. For those who don't know my background a little bit, this is a topic I really love because, if you don't know, my master's degree was in communication studies, and I focus mostly on leadership communication. And in that process, though, I got to do a lot of mediation, and including peer mediation. So I was mediating, students in college having conflicts. I was mediating, professors and students, administrators and professors, local community members and administrators. Like my job was literally 2 people come in a room. They are in conflict. They cannot resolve it. They've already tried. They do not like each other. And here they are. I even did some court referred mediation, which in like a divorce case, they'd bring in the couple and I'd have to work with them. And mind you, I'm in my early 20s, and it was such a great training ground. I mean, for 2 years, I just got to see how terribly disrespectful people can be toward each other, even when they both want to solve it. And a big part of mediation was teaching people in advance of a conversation that this process, we were going to keep respectful, that the expectation was that this is going to be a respectful conversation, because otherwise we couldn't solve it. And they already usually knew that. I've done a lot of coaching, as you know, over the last 15 years. I'm a certified high performance coach. And over these 15 years doing it full time every single week, a lot of times I'm dealing with conflict situations and couples, or conflict situations between co-founders. And soon as it devolves into disrespect, it is 10 times harder to pull it back. It is so much more difficult. And so you'll hear me talk about how you can maintain that respectful stance with your partner or the person you're having conflict with, but also know that the expectation has to be had in advance of the conversation. Sometimes you react in the heat of the moment without stepping back and setting the frame for the conversation. As simple as, if you feel hooked or triggered, saying, you know, could we talk about this in like 30 minutes in a much more calm way? I just need to go reset. And coming back with the expectation and the conversation. Let's try this again. I want to be more respectful with you. I know that we love and care for each other, or I know that we need to work together, or I know that it hasn't been easy. So let's try this again. Let's try to do this with kindness and care for another, and we can solve this together. I know we can. A simple reset into the frame of respect can change the outcome as well. When you meet a master negotiator, a master coach, a master therapist, a master, role model who really understands how to do communication well in conflict, what they're doing is they're reflecting, restating, and rephrasing things that the other person are bringing to them. They're reflecting, rephrasing, or restating what other people said in order to demonstrate understanding. Someone says, I'm so pissed at you. It's as easy as saying, I hear that you're pissed. If someone says, I'm so hurt that you did that, it's saying, I know that you're hurt. If someone says, I'm so angry, I hear that you're angry. It's just reflecting back the feelings that they are stating to you. And I mean, literally use the explicit one, even if you don't agree with it, right? If they say, you're being condescending to me, I hear that you feel I'm being condescending, right? It's as simple as just reflecting the words right back. You don't have to validate. You don't even have to agree. It's just hearing it. It's restating it back to them. It's reflecting it. It says, I'm listening to you. I heard the words that you chose to use, right? And it's reflecting back the feelings. If they don't, a lot of people don't know how to access feelings. Research shows most people only have access to like 3 to 4 words to describe their feelings: happy, mad, sad, and confused. Happy, mad, sad, and confused. Most people don't know how to say any other words than that. They have no emotional training, right? I never did. I had like happy and mad. That's all I grew up with. I was like, happy, mad. That was it. There was no nuance of all the other feelings that we could have. So most people, they might not know how to communicate it. And so if you're sensing it, one way to reflect it is, I'm sensing that you're upset. Is that right? And it's saying, I sense it, and asking to help you gauge the feeling. Or it's just saying, I say it to coaching clients all the time, especially now in this virtual world. I say it on Zoom. And as many of you guys know, my coaching clients pay $1 million a year to work with me. So I'll look at them right on Zoom and say, you know what? Can we take a beat? I'm listening, but I can't quite gauge here through this virtual world what it is you're feeling. Could you describe that to me? I know that sounds so, junior varsity, but I literally say that to CEOs. I say that to Olympians. I say that to my friends, my partners, my spouse. I say it all the time. Hey, can we take a beat here? I'm not sure I'm picking up what it is you're feeling. Can you describe what you're feeling right now? I can't tell. I say that all the time. And now it just opened up the platform for them to express feelings. And that's really important for a lot of people, especially if you're dealing with somebody who doesn't say what they feel, or it's hard to read it on their face. To say, hey, can we take a beat a minute? I can't tell what you're feeling right now. That really can open up the door to better conversation. Would you go to, one of your random neighbor's house? Would you go there and, pull up with a big dump truck of garbage and shovels and just go start shoveling in and breaking their windows and vandalizing their house? Of course, everyone says, well, no, I wouldn't, unless you hate your neighbor. But most people don't know, what are you talking about, Brendon? Would I vandalize my neighbor's house and throw garbage in? Of course I wouldn't. And yet, we vandalize the very temple that we have been given. We throw garbage in the very temple that we have been given. And what I found through years of studying psychology, but also actually doing the academic research and also doing the field testing with all our millions of high performance clients over the years, is as one's self-respect and self-worth go up, their health habits improve. In fact, often when their health habits improve, their self-respect goes up. I really believe it is a perpetual evergreen loop. Someone with greater self-respect and self-love, of course they want to care for their temple because they care for their life. They care for their energetic force. They see themselves as stewards of the temple or stewards of the energy or the spark inside. They care for their energy levels because they care for themselves. And I've been there. So if you think I'm preaching here, for those who don't know my story, when I was 19 years old, I had suicidal ideation and planning. I'd had a huge breakup in my life. I did not have the emotional tools needed to deal with that situation in my life. And so I fell into a deep pattern of self-hatred and stopped taking care of myself entirely. I mean, entirely. Not eating, not showering, not, doing anything. And so I understand that path. I've been down that path. I've coached through that path. And I have to share with you that we have to be attentive to the deep correlation between how we care about ourselves and think of ourselves and our self-worth and our health practices. It's really vital. It's very important. If you're not taking care of yourself, there's an emotional reason and an identity reason. Something about yourself that you are blocked by, upset about, angry about, sometimes disgusted about, or there's that self-hatred. And so I'm here to tell you that is one reason, especially in the world of mental health, I'm always like, see a therapist. If your health practices have sucked for 2 decades, if your health practice has sucked for a decade, don't blame it on your sweet tooth. Go see a therapist. Get some emotional support to understand what's the underlying thing happening here that I'm not taking care of myself. So I begin our health conversation by recommending therapy if you have not been practicing health habits well, especially over a period of time. There's sometimes trauma there. There's sometimes negative self-talk there. There's sometimes patterns that are hard to break without a professional assisting you. And so I'm always that person who's like, hey, I'm going to tell you to optimize. I'm going to challenge you. I'm also going to say, if you've really struggled with this for a long time, get some help, babe. Sometimes you need that. And so please hear that respectfully from me because I care about your health. You have to learn to practice presence. Practice presence. Being here fully in the moment, alive, vibrant, or at least attentive. Right? Snapping your brain out of that reactive, go with the flow mode to no, and being here. That oldest advice in all of personal development about presence and awareness about being with the flow, about being in the moment. Every spiritual tradition has taught it as being central to human happiness and connection. This has been stolen from us because of this. I really believe, I'm stunned when I hang out with people that they can't be present for 3 minutes without wanting to scroll through something. I mean, they can't be, even 4 or 5 minutes, they can't do it anymore because they have trained themselves with millions of swipes to be not present. And I believe that meaning and fulfillment, they become too fleeting when we haven't learned to be really present. And I think that's important. Learning to be really fully present and pulling that from ourselves. There's plenty of times, if you saw my schedule, you're like, how do you get present? I'm like, I've trained myself. Otherwise, I can just be pulled in the next thing. There's always a million things going on around me, and I have to learn to just zoom right in and be here with you. You have to teach yourself to do that too. Because the more days that blur by, the less sense of meaning or fulfillment you have. You can be busy, but the days don't blur by, right? I'm incredibly busy. I'm actually, this last 2 years, I can't believe how busy we got. But during that time, present. Forcing myself each day to get present so I can recognize and appreciate those little moments. So I can create the connection with other people. So that I can sense that spiritual aliveness of being here now versus hoping one day to arrive to something. And that practice of cultivating presence, of, I would say, and I know people don't like when I use this phrase, but demanding presence. I demand of myself to be present. Because I know when I'm not, I'm like, Brendon, get present. Okay. So I might bounce in place, take 10 deep breaths just to reset my brain and my body. Whew. And that 10 deep, maybe you do it right now with me. Just stand up wherever you're at, bounce in place a little bit, take 10 deep breaths. Recenter yourself to the moment and keep going. And that way you can observe life. Many people, they'll work their whole career, then they'll retire, and then they'll retire, and they'll finally be like, oh, wow, look at the color of the trees. This is amazing. Wow, life looks pretty good. And they didn't even see it for 5, 6 years. They missed all of it. Even though they were amidst all of it, they just missed it. You have to teach yourself to be with it, to be here. Meaning and fulfillment is so much, as much as we can define it and have a destiny mindset, we can feel it. Like I do it for if I have a great dinner with Denise, like things go great. We just have a nice conversation. I'll walk away and I might be like putting things away and just literally think in my mind, what a blessing. God, I made it. Thank you so much for this blessing to be here with my wife. What a great day. What an amazing moment we just had. You know what? Years later, I'm going to cherish that dinner. Simple as that. It's what we say to ourselves in the minute and after the minute that really defines how we feel over the long term. Isn't it true? The little moments, if you can celebrate them, be there for them, give thanks for them. I believe the more you give thanks for the moments in your life, the more meaning you find. The more you give thanks for the moments in your life, the more you feel fulfilled. Even if you feel years away, even if the next big thing is out there, it's okay. Right now, you're feeling it. That's what presence is. It's about feeling the day more. You hear me teach this now for 20 years. It's like you have to learn to feel life. If we don't feel it, then what's it about? And you're not just going to suddenly one day feel it, because you drank a bunch of coffee. Maybe you are, but you're gonna imagine me on caffeine. One day you're going to teach yourself to feel the day and feel the moments more. You're going to observe more. You're going to breathe more. You're going to have more intention. And as you learn to feel the day, when someone says, hey, do you feel fulfilled about your life? You're like, I do. Because you are filling life with presence. When you fill life with presence, you feel fulfilled. It takes an active participation on your point. You're not just going to show up one day and feel fulfilled. You have to fill the day with those senses of gratitude and meaning and really, I would say, connection. If you don't do that, I promise the days just blur by. And the more they blur by, the more you just stack on everybody else's reactions, needs, desires, drives, distractions, their meaning. And one day you show up and you're really just a bag of everyone else's intentions and needs and drives and labels and meanings. And in that place, you're not autonomous. In that place, you don't get to experience that individual sense of meaning and fulfillment we've talked about from the very beginning, because you didn't take the time to define it consistently enough. When people have clarity about their future and clarity about their purpose, it tends to come in different categories here. Okay, so let me give you some of those categories. First is yourself. I know that sounds like no duh, Brendon, but this is yourself in terms of your identity. This is yourself in terms of who you are becoming. And this is yourself in terms of your self-worth. Okay, I'll cover those three elements here in a second. Self in regards to your identity. Who am I? Self in terms of who you are becoming. Who do I believe I am meant to become, or do I desire to become? And self in terms of self-worth. Am I worthy? These questions make you either feel connected as a purposeful being, or they make you feel terrible. And so let's explore them. Your identity. I always ask this in my seminars. If you've never done this work with me, it's from one of my other books called The Charge. And the charge being like the amp, like the battery pack, like, you know, the subtitle was Activating the 10 Human Drives That Make You Feel Alive. The book is called The Charge. And one of the things I started asking people to do in high performance work was to share with me, to generate and share with me, what are the 3 words that would define the best of who you are today? Like if you had to describe yourself, like let's say you went on speed dating and you sat down across from someone and the question was, okay, share the 3 best parts of you, and with using one word, describe that now. It's kind of like that, right? It's like, what's the 3, like if I had to describe the best of who I am in 3 words, what would my 3 words be? What are your 3 words? Like, what are your 3 words that is the best of who you are? Or if you struggle with that, the 3 words that would describe the best of who you want to be. I want to make sure that you have your 3 words. And I want your 3 words on a board, or I want the 3 words on your mirror, or I want the 3 words next to your computer. And every day you look at those 3 words and go, today, I'm going to be this. At midday, am I being this? At the end of the day, was I that? We need to develop a purposeful sense of being and remind ourselves of it.
There is a evolutionary and a biological reason that you feel the way that you do, right? It's very important to understand in both, I really believe, mental health and physical health, it is that kind of 50-50 kind of thing. And when we blend it together, by the way. But there's no question that some people biologically feel more fatigued or more depressed or more anxious. We have to understand that you and me are not the same biologically in how our energy might be. And I hope that always introduces empathy and compassion, that there's a big luck card that we get. I have friends literally who are born without limbs. I have friends who are born with conditions in which their brain functions in very unhealthy ways. I have friends who've died so early of cancer. I have friends who have struggled with mental health. I have friends who've committed suicide. I have friends and family who struggle constantly with all sorts of biological health issues that is quote unquote not their fault. And it's important to realize that. Some of you feel terrible biologically, even though you're drinking all your water, you're eating all your greens, you do move and you do exercise. And so I'm here to say there is no preaching. We all have to take the cards we've been dealt and figure out how to care for ourselves, how to optimize the best that we can, how to improve, even if it's a little bit, incremental by incremental. But it starts with a biological understanding of where we are at. And this is why, again, as a person who's not a medical professional, I'm like, listen, if you don't understand closely how you feel and why you feel the way that you do, please, 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 if you've never done it, go get a full workup of every friggin' health test you can. As an adult, as somebody who's accountable for your health, go get the blood tests. Go see the nutritionists or the dietitians. Go work out with the trainer. Go literally do all the genetic testing that you can do to understand what's up with you. I always tell the story of a friend of mine who was one of my partners in one of my businesses, one of my best friends in the world, who discovered at the age of 40 that, every morning he always had the sniffles and his nose was running and he's clearing his throat and everything. And found at the age of 40 that he was allergic to eggs. At the age of 40. Didn't know, spent 40 years having these reactions that made him fatigued and blowing his nose and everything because he was allergic to eggs. And I think that's a sad thing about our society is that we're not taught or trained or honestly empowered or equipped or served with some simple health support when we're young that says, hey, look, seems like you're allergic to this thing. Don't eat it. I mean, how is that not part of our educational process, right? Or healthcare system that, of course, we would all find out very early on and be tested multiple stages of our life, including every new decade. What are we allergic to? What preconditions might we have? What's our genetic makeup leading us towards? So this is where I say health is luck, right? Health might be luck, but it's your job to be aware. Your job, no one else's. No one's going to come and save you here. You've got to do the testing and see the medical professionals and dietitians and people who can help you optimize and care for your body. I believe that has to be something we demand of ourselves. It's not served to us, at least not in the society I live in. So we have to take accountability for that. So health is luck, ... Our social realm is incredibly purposeful. Most importantly is this, and you all know this as strivers here in Growth Day, but I think this is so critical. You've got to be around purposeful people. You got to be around purposeful people. If you feel like the people around you aren't as purposeful as they should, send them to growthday.com. It's like maybe they need a little training. A lot of people need training on this topic. Just like my friend I told you about, the woman I was coaching, who she'd never been trained to ask the question, what would make her feel fulfilled? Most people have never been trained on purpose either. But getting around, striving, giving, generous, kind, compassionate, high-performing people will completely make you feel different about life. I think about my friendships and the people in my life. They got a lot of purpose. And it doesn't mean they have this end game. It means they're living purposeful lives with great intention and appreciation and presence. So they're awesome to be around. Do you have 5 people who are awesome to be around in your life? Like awesome and purposeful. If not, time to meet them. Your life matters. My life matters. Those people you hate out on the internet, their life matters. That what happens is we get so myopic into our own world of, okay, is the little thing I'm doing today, does that matter? Does my, this one thing I did, does that make me feel fulfilled and complete as a person? And we lack an overall life philosophy. An overall life philosophy
that we have defined our lives and the context of humanity as meaningful. I know this might be too academic for some people, and that's why I use the word or the phrase, a destiny mindset. If you have lost that feeling that says, I have an opportunity to make a difference while I am here, you've lost that connection with what I'm calling a destiny mindset. A destiny mindset. And I know some people will take a destiny mindset that's like, oh, I got to see myself on a cover of a magazine. I'm like, I know lots of people on covers of magazines who don't feel a sense of meaning or fulfillment in their life. It's not an external thing. It's an internal or intrinsic thing that I just feel called. I feel that my life is leading to something important. I feel honored or privileged or grateful that I can make a difference in the future. And that make a difference in the future thing is a overall life philosophy that is connected to destiny. And I hope you start thinking about that, because you know what? Sometimes you wake up in the friggin' morning and you pull this thing out, don't you? You pull out your phone in the morning, and what do? You start scrolling through everybody else's stuff, everybody else's agenda, everybody else's life, and you get trapped into the myopic, looking at that comment and getting sad or upset about it. You get trapped into small things of life, the tasks, the emails, the responses, and all of a sudden you've been pulled into this tiny little myopic to-do list part of your life, and you forgot the being part of your life. You want to feel more meaning in your life? Start your day with that destiny mindset. Can you show me somewhere, something that you look at every day that opens up your mind and reminds you to get out of that little myopic brain that we all have that's just focused right here? Because if you never look to the bigger vision of life, it's hard to ever feel a deep sense of meaning or fulfillment.
So routine, or we could call it a habit, or what I like to call in our high performance research, we talk about the phrase of a deliberate practice or a deliberate habit. I personally deeply believe that people who want to be healthy, who think their habits are going to carry them over the line, don't know how life actually works, right? We've all fallen in love with these simple gimmicky habits that we're supposed to do, and the way of thinking about habits. That's not how it works when you grow. Growth requires deliberate habits, not automated habits that just happen. They're so easy and all that. No, deliberate habits. Okay, I'm going to do this today. I'm going to implement this thing. I'm going to choose to do that as a routine, as a practice, as a deliberate habit that I have to conscientiously decide to go do, even if it's hard. Routines, those might be eating well, working out well, sleeping well, finding out what works for you, which we'll talk about in a moment. But here's the deal. If you don't know your routines, if you don't have patterns, practices, or plans for your health, how are you supposed to ever feel your best or even feel better? You got to have a plan in place. One of my favorite things to do is when I work with a client. And some of you know when I work with one-on-one with a client, it's a big deal. I rarely do that anymore. You're talking about 7-figure levels of work. Very rare that I'll do that with. But one of my favorite things to do with an actual paying client is ask them to take a picture for me of their list of health habits. And you know what they usually say? Oh gosh, Brendon, I don't have one. I go, nowhere written down in your house is a list of your health habits or your health goals? It's not written down? Well, no. Did you ever journal about it? Well, yeah, I guess one time, on New Year's 4 years ago. It's not even written down. There's no plan. They'll tell you, I'll ask what your health, well, I like this routine, or, I like kale. They'll tell you something. I had to drop a kale joke up in here. They'll be they'll have an idea. They'll have a list of things that they'll pontificate on that works for them once in a while. It's nowhere written down. I love my friends when, for the first time, they go to run a marathon. And often they'll get a coach, or they'll start reading books on it, or, they'll look something up on the internet. and realize, oh, to run a marathon, there's a plan. And listen, if you just go in and try to run a marathon yourself, I guess a small percentage of the planet could figure it out and actually pull it off. The rest of us humans, we follow a plan. That plan is starting small, getting a little bit better, focusing on these things, running a little bit longer and a little bit longer and a little bit better, and all of a sudden you ran a marathon. It's an incremental approach, but guess what? There's a plan. No plan, no gains. No plan, no change. No goals, no growth. And so if you want health to be something important in your life, where's the list? Where's the plan? Even it's simple. We need the routine, we need the plan, we need the goals. Write it down, do it today, put it in your journal in growth day. Go make a plan in growth day. I'm going to start doing these things. Put it in there. Set reminders in growth day. Literally, you can write reminders in growth day. Drink water, have it pop up a couple times a day as a notification. Eat healthy tonight, have it pop up as a reminder. You can set up reminders in growth day if you didn't know, which are a hugely popular thing for people's health. So go set up reminders. Just go to the plan section of your growth day app after this broadcast today and set up your plan. What emotions do you want to feel and experience every day? How do you want your body to feel and move through space? What kind of stamina do you want to have mentally and physically? What kind of endurance do you want in your soul, in your spirit, to be able to show up day after day, even when it's hard and difficult and awful, even when they betrayed you, stole from you, hurt you, so you can still show up and give the energy of love? How is that for an energetic vision? Where is love in your vision? Where is the vibrancy behind that love? Where is the ability to project, demonstrate, or envelop others in a spiritual kindness, compassion, love, empathy? This is part of your energetic vision, isn't it? Energy, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. And if you have no vision for that, you'll just show up. That's it. You'll just show up. And if you just show up by default in this world today, what that means is you'll be surrounded by 50 bags of potato chips and all the comforts and ease that the world affords us, and your health will go to hell. And I really, truly believe it is by having an energetic vision and then living in alignment to that, demanding of ourselves to live in alignment to that. I'll give you an example. I'm somebody who, obviously my energy is really important to me, and it's super hard. There's days and stresses and difficulties that it's so hard to, quote unquote, be me, right? With the expectations the world has, it's just like intense. And some days I deal with it well, some days I don't. But if you follow me around for a month, you're like, look at all these things this guy does to care for his health. Part of purpose is sensing a mission larger than yourself. Most people confuse that with a large achievement. But what it was meant to be back in the day in these conversations was it meant you can see beyond yourself. I can see the suffering of others and want to be of service to them. I can see the suffering of others and want to be of service to them. Where that means your angry child, or that means the neighbor who's struggling, or your friend who just lost her husband. It means I can see beyond myself, my immediate selfish, impulsive needs, and I can be with someone. I can sit with someone. I can listen to somebody. I can empathize with somebody. Too often we think of service as like donation. Did I donate to this cause? And by the way, please donate to whatever cause that you get behind. But there's different ways to provide service outside of just money. And the biggest part of humanity is learning to sit with people and be with them in their times of need, to let them know you see them and you hear them and you're curious about their story and you want good for them in their lives. Not your way, not imposing your values,
not pushing the answer, but literally just honoring them as a human being. Do you know who feel incredible meaning in their lives? People who cherish their life. Cherish it. Truly cherish their life. And if you feel like I'm speaking philosophically to you, I'm not. I've had both the blessing and the very real difficulties of being with a lot of people at the end of their life. And many of you know I've volunteered in hospice. I've been with my own father as he passed away in our home. And I can share with you that it's not until too late that many people finally start cherishing their life, really owning and appreciating different parts of their life. And if you can remember to do that, I think something magical happens. That's why I ask everybody, go into your growth day journal every day and capture any meaningful moment, capture any sense of gratitude, capture any event you didn't like, and spin that meaning into such a way where you acknowledge what's real, but you're back in control of your emotions, feelings, and your next actions. It's like by the more often that we capture moments that we can cherish or moments that we can learn, the more life becomes more meaningful. But absent of that self-reflection, it's just a busy blur. That's why journaling has proven over and over and over in psychology, including mental health practices and yes, therapy, to dramatically shift people's thoughts and feelings and life satisfaction over the long term.
To sustain motivation, you have to do two things you probably already know. First, you have to focus. Now, before you turn off the video or go to the next one, listen to this. A lot of people have that initial desire, but they don't look at their goals every single day. They don't revisit every single, let's say, Sunday and say, how did I do this week? How did I do in my health, in my relationships, in my career? How did I do with my finances? How did I do with any other goals that I set up? You have to have that daily discipline to look and focus on what you're doing, and that weekly review. You also have to have the ability to avoid distractions. One of the reasons people love my book, The Motivation Manifesto, is this teaches you how to set boundaries, how to say no, how to push away distraction to own your life again. But here's the deal. When you're focusing on something and you're really dialing in, it also brings your full presence into something, so you perform at higher levels. The second thing you need, outside of focus, is sustained motivation, is everyday effort. It's the reason you have to set up habits. It's the reason you have to have a daily routine, a morning routine. It's the reason you have to make sure you have a checklist of to-dos each day. I know that sounds so basic, but here's the funny thing. A lot of people think they'll have motivation one day, then they'll put the effort out. It's like motivation first, they think, then effort comes. The motivation inspires the effort, right? It's actually the opposite in the science of motivation. It's with daily effort that motivation comes. I like to tell people this, with momentum comes more motivation. Don't wait for the motivation to go out and take action. Actually, take action first, because just a little bit of progress, a few quick wins, drops dopamine into the brain. We start feeling good and rewarded for our behavior, and suddenly we find ourselves more motivation. So here's the thing. Set 3 goals each day. Knock off each of those 3 goals. If you just did that each and every single day, you'd start feeling more personal power and you'd start getting ahead.
Could you write that down and underline it 20 times for me? Improve the situation. Build the relationship. I literally mean this. Don't watch this passively. Write it on a piece of paper right now. Paper, pen, remember those? Improve the situation. Underline, underline, underline. Build the relationship. Underline, 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 underline. If you could do me that favor, we just change your life forever. If you can look at that piece of paper before you have that next difficult conversation, we just change your life forever. Improve the situation. Build the relationship. Someone make me a quote card and post it on social media. Tag me up. I want to see it. All right? Improve the situation. Build the relationship. From that perspective, everything can change. Now, trust me, I know. Already in your mind, you've been thinking, but you don't understand. This guy tweet me. You don't understand. This person said this on social media. You don't understand. I got this email. You ain't met my husband yet. I know. You're like, oh, you don't know my boss. You don't know this. No, I do know. I've worked with them for 15 years, every single week through conflict relationships. I've been there. I've seen it all. And I know those with the higher intention win over the long term. Now, we're going to talk about how to deal with jerks later. But what are we starting with? We're starting with you. We're starting with your frame of the world, shared future, respectful process, empathy and encouragement. We're talking about you, your identity. Who are you going to be? And what are your intentions? We got to start with you. If you start the thought of conflict and you're immediately blaming and pointing at other people, man, you're behind the times. We can't do that anymore. It didn't work. We've tried that in societies. You've tried that in other relationships. You got to be personally responsible for yourself, your identity and your intentions first. Isn't that one of the hallmarks of all personal development work? Personal responsibility starts with you. Change starts with you guys. You want to feel more meaning and fulfillment in your life? Think about life more. Read some philosophy. Read some great biographies of people who did great things. Expand your vision. And as soon as you expand your vision, there's a different sense of, I would say, emotion and motion in life. Expand that vision again. Open up that ambition again. Now, most people don't do that because, well, you don't understand, Brendon, I got disappointed. I failed. They don't believe in me. I'm like, and if you let every disappointment or failure or discourager out there pull at your life philosophy and where you're going in the future, if you forget that you are destined for greatness by God, or you are destined for goodness by a higher power, or if you don't believe in any of that, if you forgot the connection to your own future in which you want abundance and joy and amazing things for your family, well, then we got pulled into the mud, didn't we? I am a person who builds positive relationships. Imagine you've got to go have that difficult conversation at work with that underperforming employee. There they are in the glass conference room cube, and you know you have to go in there and deliver some truthful feedback that they're underperforming. If your mindset is, this person sucks, I hate them, how are you going to treat them? If your intention is, I need to get this person to change or I'm going to fire them, how are you going to treat them? But if the intention is, I'm a person who builds positive relationships. Okay, stepping into this conversation from that truth. I want to be a role model. I want to build positive, lasting conversations and relationships with other people. Okay, let me start with that. It is entering a conversation with the intention to build the relationship. Let me say that again. It's entering the conversation with the clear intention to build the relationship. At home, that sounds like, honey, I love you. I'm always trying to figure out ways that we can make the relationship better. I have some ideas, and I'd love if we could have a conversation. At work, it's as simple as, you know what? Your relationships with your coworkers here really matter. And we're trying to build something really special together. And I know you're part of that. So we need to have a conversation. It's just baselining everybody and reminding everybody that we're here to build a relationship. See, when you're angry, what is your usual intention? I'm here to end this relationship. F this person, they're out. And now from that frame, from that intention, how do you treat people? My intention is to fire this underperforming jerk. Okay, you're going to have a very different conversation. Intention is the very thing that will change you for the rest of your life. I know many of you heard me talk about my experiences with Oprah Winfrey and the blessing of doing some courses with her and her network and really learning a lot from her. And one thing I was always amazed by, when she starts any meeting, she always asks, what's our intention for this meeting? Just challenge yourself. Just challenge yourself. Challenge yourself at the gym next time. Challenge yourself when you're on the road next time to go a little bit further.
Challenge yourself to get a little faster. Challenge yourself to be a little more mobile or flexible. Challenge yourself to stay a little longer in that yoga pose. Challenge yourself to reset your mindset after you get angry or hurt or down. If you're not challenging yourself, who is? I know people say, but Brendon, isn't perfectionism such a problematic thing in mental health? I'm like, totally. That is the super thin slice. The reality is, perfectionism isn't the problem. The problem is people think they should be perfect. But perfecting ourselves, growing into our full potential, expecting a lot of ourselves, that can be done in healthy ways, especially when you consider all the things we've talked about today. It's okay to challenge yourself again. Last time you might have challenged yourself, maybe you got down on yourself. This time, as you challenge yourself, allow the grace. Do it with social accountability. Have an energetic vision. Recalibrate. Find what feels good for you and stick to that. You can figure out a way to feel better. You can figure out a way to get healthier. It's going to be on your own path, in your own way. No one can tell you all the right ways to do that. You'll probably need support. You'll probably take months and months and months and years to figure it out. And often you'll fall off the wagon. You'll do a terrible thing. You'll make a bad choice, but you'll recalibrate and you'll keep getting better because you and I both know that every day is a great day to grow. I want to thank you all for this incredible session today on health. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you'll share it with family and friends. If it supported you, just go tell people what we're doing here at Growth Day. Like, holy, they're having an entire month of conversations about health, about mental health, emotional health, physical health, right here in Growth Day. We'll be live every single week with you guys, as always, on our Wednesday Wisdoms. So tune back in, watch the replays, make a commitment, journal today about your energy vision. Please do that. Please stay on path. Please take care of yourself. Please be kind to yourself. Please practice self-respect and self-love. You deserve a vibrant and energetic life. Do your work to move towards that, to align with that, to honor that impulse. And know that you don't have to do it alone. We're all doing it together. We're all figuring it out together. We're all on this journey together. That's why we always say every day is a great day to grow together. I can have a terrible day. And at the end of the day, I can go, okay, 2 years ago, here's how I would have dealt with that terrible day. Today, how can I improve how I deal with this terrible day? It doesn't mean you don't have terrible days anymore, does it? It doesn't mean you're not tired. It doesn't mean you don't get stressed. It doesn't mean you don't get frustrated. What it means is you have the intention to ask, oh, how can I improve how I'm dealing with this? How can I, have you ever been in a relationship where you and your partner, your spouse have the same fight over and over and over and over and over and over again? It's literally the same fight over and over and over and over again. No, it's literally the same fight over and over. You ever had that? What's lacking is somebody there is lacking the accountability and the consistent action to say, how can I improve this? How can I do it? What's happened is it's turned into a blame game, right? This person's responsible, not me. No accountability, no action. I don't have to improve it. You improve it. You broke it. You cheated. You're the bad one. You're the one bringing this up. And all of a sudden, you, blame, no accountability. I don't have to change, no action. If both couples get into that, that's where couples therapy has to happen because they're both in the blame game. They've both taken the accountability off. They believe the lie that, relationships have to be 50-50 equal. No, relationships actually mean 100-100. You're 100%, you're responsible for yourself. I'm 100% responsible for myself. And it takes 100% to keep improving this thing and making it better year over year. I think that's what people forget. It's not like huge dramatic shifts always need to happen. What has to happen for most people to change? Awareness, acceptance, and accountability. And then just small, consistent actions to improve, right? It's like, that can be so tactical and tangible. I think of my career as a coach. I just try to get better every session. It doesn't mean I'm always actually better every session. It's my intention. I'm going to get better. Every session with this client will get better. Sometimes it feels like it goes 2 steps back.
Luckily, it's 3 steps forward at some point. And so I don't pretend that every day is a bright, shiny, happy place. I just pretend that every day it's possible to improve my reaction, to improve my energy, to improve how I treat this person, to improve how I stay congruent, right? It is that constant desire, that constant intention to have purposeful living. And no one has purposeful intention or purposeful living and decides, I don't want to improve today. You can accept yourself and still want to improve today, right? The Dalai Lama can be fully accepting of himself, but he can also want to improve his meditative practice, right? We all have that impulse to grow, improve, develop mastery.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome. For 10 more amazing rules from Simon Sinek, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
The rules are changeable, which means every player can play however they want, and the objective is to perpetuate the game, to stay in the game as long as possible. Companies come and go, and yet the game continues with you or without you, and there's no such thing as winning. Nobody wins business. It doesn't exist. But if you listen to the language of too many leaders,